Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 40 of Professional Amateurs. The intro does sound a bit different, which is at least better than not having one like we did on the last episode, because Ryan ruined the Riverside debut. For those who haven't listened, that's the title of the most recent episode, episode 39. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but this is episode 40, and that was our new live intro. Still getting the timing down, but I think that sort of worked out. What do you guys think? How'd that go?
It honestly went better.
I thought we were going to listen to the whole thing. I misunderstood.
You just fully interrupted Ryan there.
No one was talking on mine. No.
Oh, what? Oh, shoot. Okay. Could you not see his lips moving?
It's all out of sync, the whole time.
Oh, that's not good. Okay, I guess we'll just see how this goes.
It was last time, too.
Oh, really?
Last time the video, it worked out fine, so.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I didn't have any issues anyway. Maybe get that Wi-Fi figured out, Jack.
No,
it's that Thunder Bay connection.
It's also just the new recording process. It looks like shit to us in the moment, but then it looks nice after, so it's fine.
It does look bad at the moment, and then it kind of just fixes it up and pumps it up a little bit. All right. So last time we talked was Wednesday, and then I guess the NHL decided to go bonkers Wednesday night. So we missed all of the fun outcomes and performances from Wednesday in the NHL. The most noteworthy of which was Tage Thompson scoring 5 goals in a 9-4 shit kicking of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Tage, he had 4? I think he had 4 goals in the first period, and then he scored his 5th one. He scored his first one really soon into the second period, and all of a sudden people started talking about single game goals record, which is 7 in a game, which was in 1920.
Yeah. And then did you see how much time on ice he finished with? It was kind of ridiculous.
He only played 2 minutes in the third period.
Come on, you go.
Yeah,
he's your star center. Take it off.
No,
rest up.
You go for the
goals
in the first period.
No way.
Once you get to the third and you're still at 5,
the record is only.
It's not as likely as when you were at 5, 21 minutes in.
You don't think trying to tie the record is worth it against Columbus?
No, I'm just saying as the game goes on, every shift he takes without a goal, the odds of him hitting it are lower and lower.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't go for it.
Okay, but then they played him. He played 2.5 minutes in the third period. His ice time for the game was 14 minutes, and he scored 5 goals. I don't know. When I saw his third period ice time, I was bummed out that they didn't at least try to because they kind of just threw in the towel. They took the W and moved on. But I don't know, when it's a record this significant, I feel like you got to go for it.
You have to.
But every other sport, basketball, you would have seen a guy on the floor for the rest of the game. Football, a receiver about to set the record for receiving yards or something like that. He's getting fed the ball. Baseball's different because it's limited number of appearances. But in hockey, you just don't get that. There's too much respect for the history of the game. Guys got to try to break shit. Break a record. Come on. No one's going to be mad at you.
Break your teammate's face if you're pissed on the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Thomas Chabot exemplifying that perfectly. Okay, what would your guys' reaction be if you were Travis Hamonic? And I got Thomas Chabot and Travis Hamonic mixed up. Relax. What would your guys' reaction be if you're Hamonic and you got smoked in the face because you're $8 million stud defenseman who's played like shit this year, is frustrated after a shift and whacked the glass right next to you? I would have a hard time not socking a guy in the face.
Yeah,
I mean, what are you gonna do? You do something stupid like that, you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess if you're Hamonic in that situation, but oh man, I would just be so angry because I already am not a big fan of the displays of frustration, seeing a baseball player come into the dugout and whack his Gatorade bucket with his bat. I think that stuff's stupid. Whatever. And whacking your stick against the glass right next to your teammate because of a bad call or something. Relax. I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
I've never been one for.
I
Yeah, I guess, but there's better ways to
And
I don't know, exemplify
how do you not
it.
realize that
It's just
you have
stupid.
a teammate sitting right beside you too? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if he didn't realize
I
he
mean-
was there, or if he didn't think he was gonna hit him. But like, what on earth are you thinking?
There's been worse instances
Yeah.
of this. Like, it wasn't even that bad.
Like, remember the goalie?
Like, the first
one?
thing I
It
thought
kinda-
was Keith Ballard and Thomas Vokoun.
Yeah, exactly the one I was thinking of.
What was that one?
He went to go smash his.
Ballard went to break his stick on the post and hit Vokoun in his, like, across the mask, and it cut him open under the mask.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that one. That one was wild. But I don't know. I just like. I think people were looking at it, and based on like how Chabot waxed the glass, it almost looks like he breaks his stick and it like ricochets and hits Hamonic. Because I thought it was like the butt end of his stick whacking him in the face.
The way the camera is zoomed in, like you don't see how it ricochets, and like I still haven't seen an angle that shows the ricochet, but apparently that's what happened, and it wasn't just a straight up 2-hand to the face.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
okay,
Jeff Skinner's sitting 3 games for a 2-hander to the face like that. So,
and like thank God they
imagine this.
Thank God they won, because like that'd be all anyone's talking about if they lost that game too.
Yeah, and now it's just like kind of a whatever story that I didn't even think we were going to talk about, but then it got thrown out there. Okay, back to Tage Thompson. I don't know if this narrative has like started yet, but he's kind of fully stepped into Jack Eichel's shoes as a franchise player for this team. And I was just wondering, like, I wanted to get your guys' take. Are you guys ready to just proclaim Tage Thompson a franchise player? Like, right now? Is he the guy in Buffalo, or is, like, an Owen Power going to end up being the guy or whatever? Like, who's the face of the Buffalo Sabres this next era? Who do you think?
It's still too soon to say, because I don't know. I wasn't ready to say like Dahlin was a franchise or like a generational, or obviously not generational, but like a franchise player like 2 years ago. But now he looks like he's going to be a number 1 defenseman on a very good team for a long time. Tage Thompson, this is really just his sophomore year after the breakout, right? So it's kind of hard to say if he's going to keep it up, but like if the team keeps getting better around him, the talent keeps improving, and he's paid like their number 1 center right now, right?
He makes 7, so I think like long term he could, if they find someone better, he doesn't make too much to be a number 2 guy.
So like
at all,
he's a great flex between that 1 and 2. So if he ends up being that number 1 franchise player, like you've hit a home run, and if not, it's still going to be an incredible contract and a second line player that puts up 40 plus goals. So,
what do you think, Jack? Where are you at on Tage Thompson?
No, I think he's dead on for there. I think he's definitely not. I mean, maybe you could say he's the current face of the franchise, but for the next era of Sabres hockey, I don't know if it'll stay that way. But yeah, he could be the number 2 center on a cup-winning team, easy.
It's such a like
for the playoffs.
It's such a weird situation because that trade was so lopsided for so long, the Ryan O'Reilly trade, and now all of a sudden Buffalo has this guy who's on pace for like 60 goals and 110 points. That's 6'7", and they locked him into what already looks like it's going to be one of the nicest contracts in the NHL for the next 7 years. Because
it doesn't even kick in until next year.
Yeah, like it was. What is it? 7 years, 50 mil, like just a shade over 7 a year. It's going to be a wicked contract. And Ryan, you kind of mentioned that he's going to be like, if he turns out to be like a second line player. Like, I think he's already past that. Like, I think his floor right now is what he is, like, right now. Unless this year is, like, a break, like, not a breakout, a career year. Like, he's going to be an overqualified second-line player if Buffalo's ever going to win a Stanley Cup or something like that.
I agree.
I think. Obviously, I don't think that the guy who would potentially usurp Tage Thompson as a number one center is in the organization right now. They still have another lean year or two to maybe draft someone like that. But yeah, who knows? Like, Tage Thompson could be that guy. He kind of showing that he definitely can be right now. So it's just such a fascinating storyline that I've loved to see develop, especially because that trade was like like 4 or 5 years ago before St. Louis won their
And it
cup.
looked like a
So it's been a
dud.
long development trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did look like a dud, which is wild. Jack, were you going to add something there? It looked like you're
Oh, I
ready
was
to-
just gonna say, like, if in say 2 to 3 years Thompson is their number one center, nobody's upset in that organization.
No, not at all. Not
If
at
he
all.
becomes the number 2 center, it's as you guys have touched on, like his contract allows that to not be an overpaid second line center, and if that's their second line center, they have a hell of a first line center to be
It's
ahead of.
kind of like the same situation in Ottawa, except like a better situation. Like Ottawa has Stutzla and Norris. They're like a couple $100,000 apart in cap hit. But now if they are able to find that $9-10 million guy, they do have some separation. And Tage Thompson is a ridiculous player on that contract. So it's going to look really good if they can do that.
Can you imagine if they win a lottery this year? One of the 2 spots? Holy shit.
Unreal.
Like, they're such a nice young team. Like, they're going to be so crazy for such a long time.
No more stars
Man, oh, man.
in the Atlantic Division. I'm over it.
Oh, I know. The Atlantic Division needs to relax, or the NHL needs to, like, switch this up a little bit. Because, like, just running through the division quick, not that I think our listeners need this sort of update, but, like, Boston's Boston. Toronto's not going anywhere. Tampa's always good, and I'm convinced that they're going to be 15 years from now when Stamkos and Hedman are retired because they're just going to find the next guy.
And it's
Detroit's got this.
I was just gonna say, it seems
What?
like every single superstar that's like on the market gets traded to the Atlantic too.
Yeah, like it seems like there's those 4 teams. So Boston, Toronto, Tampa, and Florida. Like those are the 4 like contending teams right now, even though Florida's out to a slow start. And then the 4 teams that aren't contending, their rebuilds are going really nicely. So it's kind of one of those things where there's no like shithole aspect of the division. Although you could argue Ottawa, but they're sort of correcting the ship here, and they do have a nice young core. They just haven't been able to build around it. But like Montreal's looks awesome. Buffalo's looks like the best rebuild in the league, and then Detroit's right there too.
3 games under 500 or 500 is kind of like, it's kind of crazy for the last place team in a division. Like, what are the other teams right now, like in last place? I don't have the standings right now, but
Columbus is 6 games below fake 500.
I think
Chicago's 8. Chicago's 8 and Anaheim's 11.
I was tracking it for a while, and I think like up to 15 games into the season or something like that, every single team in the Atlantic was at least 500. Like, it's crazy. It's something you don't see.
Was it 15
It was
games?
something like that. Yeah. Maybe.
It was definitely like. I think it was less because Ottawa had that big losing streak. But like, regardless, it's a stacked division, and it's only gonna look like it's gonna continue to get better because every time people want to write off Boston and Tampa for the like 2 of those rebuilding teams to take their spot, they just end up having another great year. So, and especially with Florida picking up Matthew Tkachuk, who's such a monster. He's just so good. Like, Ryan, remember when we were talking about top 10 players of the league? Like, Matthew Tkachuk's right there.
Yeah, and that's kind of the major trade I was alluding to when I was saying, like, every star. Like, the biggest trade we've seen in the last decade, if not plus, straight to the Atlantic. So
that's exactly it. And let's go to another team in the Atlantic. It's kind of funny, like, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we mentioned how we hadn't talked about the Leafs in like a month or two, just because it's just the status quo with them. Dominant regular season. We'll see what happens in May. And now this will be a 3rd pod in a row where we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs because they're now starting to do like really cool regular season stuff. Instead of just like winning 3 out of every 5 games like they always do, like they're actually doing cool shit. And so they're on an absolute heater right now. And not to mention Marner's, whatever it is, 21, 22 game point streak. William Nylander had 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists, and a 5-4 W over Calgary yesterday. And I was curious to get your guys' thoughts on what his next contract looks like, because that's a very, I would say it's an undercovered topic in Leafs land, because all the attention is always on Matthews, as it should be. But William Nylander's contract lines up with when Matthews' expires. And as of right now, this looks like a $10 million player. What do you guys think? Jack, you want to go first?
I mean, he's a hell of a player, and if you think back to playoffs too, he keeps getting kind of labeled as one of the only guys that shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, like the year Montreal came back and went on the cup run, two guys showed up for Toronto. It was William Nylander and Jason Spezza. That was their offense. So he's definitely making the case that, like, these playoff issues aren't his fault. Obviously, it's like a team thing, but the sort of time of William Nylander is the odd man out and needs to get traded, like, that's gone. They need to do what they can to keep him.
Yeah, and it's going to be wild because he's going to get, like, probably a $3+ million raise off of his current $6.9 million contract. Nice. But, like, I don't know. It'll be fascinating because he's going to be a UFA as well. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on William Nylander?
Yeah, I definitely think he gets a raise. I don't know if he pushes. I don't think. No, not gotten over point per game. That $10 million threshold, just because he's a winger, right? And he's never really yet. It looks like he's going to now, but, like, if he does,
I think he's been right at it for the last few years.
I think that does kind of prop him up into that $9 million range, but I don't necessarily see him getting into those 10. Maybe if the cap jumps and everyone gets spending like crazy, but I don't necessarily see 10.
I kind of more meant it at, like, if he hits the open market, I think he easily gets 10. Because that's what happens with UFAs. Like, I don't think if he's going to stay with the Leafs, he's going to be making double digits, but I think if he hits the market and wants to start bidding more, I think he gets 10 plus.
He's also been, like, option 3, 4, or 5 for his time in Toronto.
Yeah. That too. Yeah.
If he goes to an open market and a team wants to make him option number 1, that's a $10 million player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely could be. He's got the talent.
Yeah.
He's what did he score last year? He have like 30-some goals. He might score 40 this year. He's on pace to. Just like kind of just like a really sick player surrounded by better players, so he just doesn't really get talked about quite enough, maybe, as like, which is kind of just kind of wild to say about a Toronto Maple Leaf, like a star player on the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it's kind of true. Like Nylander, like if he was sort of the guy on his own team, not unlike Leon Draisaitl, like if they were sort of I messed that up. If they were like the guy on their own teams, I think they would have a lot more respect around the league. Not that Draisaitl doesn't, but he does, like, sort of catch himself in McDavid's shadow all the time. So, so that's probably all we really need to talk about with regards to the Leafs. Where do you guys want to pivot next? Like, I mean, there's been a ton of games. There's so many goals being scored. It's absolutely insane. Just looking at sort of the top point production players in the league, all of the top 25 that you see on the score app are above a point a game right now. And I kind of I'm curious as to what the record is for most guys above a point a game. But it's actually ridiculous where goal scoring is at right now. And, like, I'm not sure where I'm going with this right now. I don't know if I can, like, create a conversation point here, but, like, what are your guys' thoughts on all the goals being scored? Because it's actually wild considering 5 years ago, like, this just wasn't the case. Games were always 3-2, 3-1, 2-1, and now you get a 6-5 game every night.
The past couple of years for a variety of reasons. And I also think it's partially, and I have nothing to back this up, and maybe I'll do some research to find out, but, like, it feels like there's more penalties being
It's a great way to start an argument.
Than there was necessarily. I don't know.
Solid preface.
Like teams are getting a lot more power play looks and being successful.
Well, I mean, refs don't really like it when one player touches another player's stick like with his stick anymore. Like, more. Some of the slashing calls that are getting thrown around this year have been wild. Yeah. I think between that and just basically the idea that you can't really play in the league. Like, you don't get a shot in the league unless you have skill. Like, if you're not skilled anymore, you're not in the league unless you're 30 years old and have been in the league, having been tough guy. Like, you don't see... Like, Jack, I don't know if... is Arbor Jack guy just like a straight up like beast, or does he actually have some skill to his game?
Well, he has some skill. He's got 4 goals. He's a puck mover, and that's
Okay.
like 20 years ago, a guy of his sort of mold would throw a big hit, and the second they get the puck, they'd be putting it in the other corner for their partner. But he can start a breakout.
Yeah.
And there's not a guy that comes into the league these days that can't juggle the puck for a ridiculous amount of time. That's not going to do the Michigan in practice. Like,
yeah.
It's the evolution of the skill, and the kids are practicing these things.
Yeah, and it's wild because 10, 15 years ago, if you saw a guy come to the league like Arbor Jack guy who's constantly throwing around these massive hits, stepping up to fight guys, defending himself as a rookie, you would think that they kind of had zero skill whatsoever and that their game was predicated on their toughness. Now that's just not the case. Like, you do not make the NHL anymore if you can't handle the puck, make a pass, start a breakout, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Ryan, I think that's kind of where the main focal point of all this goal scoring is coming from, is that every player in the league has skill and can score.
Another game that I just kind of wanted
it's pretty sick.
Just saw was, and I don't know where you were going next, but I kind of want to touch on this. Okay, I kind of thought so I was desperately.
I wasn't going anywhere. I'm pumped that you jumped in there. I was stressed.
Talk, Boston, Arizona.
Yeah. Okay. So, Jack? Did you see the game-winning goal that Arizona scored?
It was electric.
All I've seen from that one is the fight in the crowd.
Okay. Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, Mullet Arena, baby. It's
as if you get that in Arizona too, right? Like fans fighting each other. Like it's freaking.
I mean, if you name your arena Mullet Arena, some shit like that's gonna go down.
That's been a wicked success, though.
Yeah.
That's been a wicked success. Well, yeah, I guess. Oh, true. Okay, they did just come back, but in their, I think they've only had like 5 home games. Weren't they on a 14-game road trip or something, like an entire month?
Yeah,
that's wild.
It's 5 people.
But I think they're averaging sellout right now. Like I was looking at it the other day, like Haley Salvian. Yeah, but still, like, it's Arizona and it's on a college campus. Like, I don't know, you're not going to get 5,000 students, and I think a lot, like, if you were a family of 4, you probably would be turned off of going to a hockey game on a campus.
Like, it was
in the middle of
nowhere. Now it's in the middle of Tempe, where everyone lives. So.
True.
Yeah.
It's probably cheaper to go to Arizona and watch than it is in a place like Boston,
and,
too.
Like, people are there.
Honestly,
there's a lot of Boston jerseys in that fight.
Cities especially, that like Arizona gets some of their best attendance games when it's a Canadian city or someone like New York, because a lot of people are already vacationing down there. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Plus, Mullet Arena is going to be a tourist attraction for the next 3 years too.
It is.
So you're going to get
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to
you can see an NHL team there. If you don't do it now, you don't get to do it.
Do you guys think it's actually only going to be 3 years? Because I think it's going to be more.
Well, that's what it's supposed
to be.
I'm guessing
they have to build the stadium.
Plus,
like, that doesn't take a year. That takes years and years.
Start the 4th year. No, I don't know. I'm
just. You think that's it? Okay. Okay. Okay, let's get back to the Boston Arizona game. So basically what happened is whatever Boston's record was at the time, like 20-3 or something stupid, going against the Arizona Coyotes, there was a waved off icing call that barely crossed the line, but it touched the crease.
I didn't know that.
Which I guess means that the icing gets waved off, which I actually didn't know, but it makes sense. And it like the puck basically grazed the side of the post and ended up crossing the goal line. But since it went through part of the blue paint, the icing was waved off. Clayton Keller immediately picks up the puck and passes it to Lawson Krause, who buries it with about 14 seconds left in the game, and wins it. Like, Arizona beats Boston 4-3 in overtime. I think Boston, like, the players were sort of losing their shit because, like, if the puck hadn't gone through the blue paint, I believe it probably would have been an icing call because But then Keller was able to beat out the defenseman because I think all the Boston players assumed it would be called icing, which happens way too much. Players really lollygag it on icing. That's a different conversation. But so Lawson Krause buries it. Arizona takes it. Good vibes win back at Mullet Arena. Ryan, did you have anything to add about the game, or did you just want to sort of mention the ending?
I saw the fight, and Arizona beat Boston. Like, that's hilarious. So that's all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's very funny. Boston is 21-4-1. Two of their losses have been to Arizona and Ottawa.
Yeah, it was.
And against Ottawa was like one of the first games of the year.
What is Arizona's record now?
Like, it was Ottawa's home opener. It's probably like the third game of the year for each team, something like that. It's very. Oh, they're so bad. They've fallen off a cliff because they were actually winning games at the start of the year. What are they? They are 8-13-4. Okay, they're not actually as bad. Chicago's 7-15-4. Chicago's done. Chicago is officially headed beelining it for Bedard. Because they were in a similar spot to Arizona at the start of the year, actually winning some games, kind of tanking those lottery odds. But
Mrazek was crushing it.
Yeah, which you just knew was going to happen too. As soon as he got out of Toronto, starts winning games. But I don't know. I think Anaheim has something to say about getting that top lottery odds. Oh my God, they're so bad. They're in Ottawa tomorrow. I'm actually excited to see Zegras. So do you guys want to get into the? Do you guys want to get into the World Junior selection camp for Team Canada that was put out a couple days ago? Oh, that's right. Yeah, Jack threw it out there. Eeli Tolvanen was sent down, or he was put on waivers by Nashville, formerly like a top prospect in the NHL. When did he actually like come over to the league? Let me just look at this guy. Oh, he's right here. He played his first NHL games the year after he was drafted. So he was drafted in 2017-18. He played 3 games as an 18-year-old. As expected, didn't do anything. Played 4 games the following year, didn't do much. Had stints in the AHL, went over the KHL during the COVID stuff, and then has come back and has kind of underperformed for a top prospect. He had 22 points in 40 games in the 2020-2021 season. Last year, he had 23 points in 75 games. Again, not great. And so far this season, he has 4 points in 13 games. And at 23 years old, was placed on waivers. And I know, Jack, you had some initial reaction that you were shocked by the news. If you want to maybe give a spiel.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked that he was just thrown on waivers. I mean, you trust an NHL GM would have done their due diligence and tried to trade someone in that situation before waiving them. But I was shocked to learn that of 31 teams, nobody would float a 5th round pick for a former first rounder who has he's got a solid looking card. He's really just hasn't been given a chance. He's got an NHL shot. If you kind of force him in your top 6 for 20 games, see what he can do. He could hit gold.
Or not the most recent, but like the 2018 Olympics. So like he would have been, how old is he now? 23. So he would have been 19. He had 9 points in 5 games at that Olympics. Like there wasn't NHL
19
points, or NHL players, but that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now too.
Yeah. We'll know tomorrow.
Is he on waivers right now? Like, do we know if he's cleared yet?
Yeah.
He was put on like minutes before we started this.
Okay, so we'll know tomorrow. Okay, that'll be interesting. It's not often you see a 23-year-old with good underlying numbers and an elite prospect track record sort of get placed on waivers like that. Not that I can think of.
So, like, he should be claimed.
2 times 1.5.
So
this year and next year at $1.5 million. If he doesn't get claimed, 31 other GMs are doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, or as they said, there's something else going on because like it just doesn't add up.
Yeah, that's what you said.
No.
Yeah, and like it's not like Nashville are world beaters right now. They can kind of like I think they're at.
Well, they just lost to Ottawa.
I think they're like 13, 11, and 2, something like that. Let's check it out. They're at. Yeah, they're at true 500. They're just a little bit above fake 500. Oh, they're 12, 11, and 2. So they're actually under 500 in terms of wins losses. So that's another team that I thought would be really awesome this year. That's super underperformed. The standings are still weird. I don't know. Maybe we do a standings check it around mid-season and really sort of dive into it. Odd. We kind of touch on it every week, but there's some weird situations going around the league right now still. The West is a crapshoot. Like, Winnipeg in first place, that's like, is that even a real thing? Colorado's been crushed by injuries, and they're at 13, 10, and 2, and they're probably going to like go into a little bit of a tailspin before getting healthy and then just lighting the rest of the league on fire and squeaking into the playoffs or something.
They had Charles Houdon on their first line the other night.
I know, it's wild.
It was all over Montreal, like, Twitter, sports pages. Because he was like a mid-round pick, but just forced to be the next great thing because he was French.
The tweet I saw that made me laugh was Colorado Avalanche depth chart for tonight. Mikko Rantanen, guy. I was like, that's good. And then Cale Makar. Don't forget him.
Yeah.
And then also, like, St. Louis, what the heck's going on there? They started out, they had a 7-game losing streak right at the start of the year and then followed up with like an 8-game winning streak or something. Maybe I mixed those up. And then all of a sudden it looked like they were going to take off, and now they're at 12 and 15. True. Their 170-pound goalie wants to fight all these 220-something pound NHL players.
Smoke.
And all at once, too. He challenges the whole bench.
And then like Calgary and Edmonton have been out to sort of slow starts considering how they were last year. Seattle's looking sick. LA is 15, 11, and 4, second in the division at a -5 goal differential, and their actual talent level looks kind of shitty. Like they got shit pumped by the Leafs the night after they played LA, or the night after they played Ottawa, and like they didn't look good. They beat Ottawa, but that doesn't say much. Like they didn't look good against the Senators at all. So for a team that like brought in Kevin Fiala in the offseason, brought back Drew Doughty from injury, they just don't seem to have that top end star talent now that Kopitar and Doughty are sort of on the back nine of their career. And their goaltending especially has been terrible. Kyle Peterson on waivers, like.
Do we have a?
I don't know. Jack, do you know where Quinton Byfield is?
No, but I hope he's alive. I don't know.
I'm gonna find out where Quinton Byfield is right now and what he's doing.
Is he just
Quinton Byfield is currently with the Ontario Reign. He has 14 points in 13 games. Yeah, he's playing. He's just playing in the AHL.
That was such a freaking steal.
That's so weird.
Oh my god.
Dude, LA? Like, what is going on there? What is going on in LA? Like, Alex Turcotte, 5th overall pick 2019, drafted above all those other U.S. national team development guys, and he's just nowhere to be seen. Like, he's nowhere. Alex Turcotte. Let's see where he is. Let's get a pulse on Turcotte.
Electric.
Alex Turcotte. This is me typing. Feel free to...
Yeah.
They're letting Brant Clark go to the Canadian juniors, too, so they're obviously looking long-term. They're not pushing for anything this year.
Alex Turcotte played 8 games last year, put up 0 points. He hasn't been in the NHL this year. He's got 5 points in 11 AHL games. Like, is he done? Like what's going on? I don't really get what's happening with LA. They had this monster prospect pool basically after the 2020 draft. Everyone looked at that prospect pool and was like, this team's going to be insane. They're going to have all these ELCs surrounding like the $20 million that Doughty and Kopitar combined to make. Yeah. And it's just not happening. Like, none of these guys have panned out except for Arthur Kalayev, who was a second rounder.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
all their player stats.
Like LA's?
Yeah.
Like what stats?
All of them.
Like all the player stats?
Who's leading that team in points?
Yeah, I've got it right here. What do you want to know? What do you want to know?
Yeah,
Kevin Fiala has 31 points in 30 games. Only 9 of those are
Fiala
goals.
was brought in for goals, right? And he's he's kind of doing the same thing as DeBrincat, just racking up the assists, but not necessarily contributing in the way that everyone thought he would be.
So here's their like sort of top 7 or 8 players in terms of production, and this is just strictly off of points. So read into it as much as you'd like. Kevin Fiala, 31 points in 30 games, 9 goals. Anze Kopitar, 25 and 30 with 8 goals. Arvidsson, 22 and 28, 8 goals. Philip Deneau, 20 points in 30 games, 7 goals. Gabe Vilardi, that's another guy that sort of has panned out for them among all those like prospect pool guys that I briefly mentioned. Gabe Vilardi, 19 points in 29 games with 13 goals leading the team. Sean Dursey, acquired in the Jake Muzzin trade, 18 points in 27 games. That guy's a stud. Trevor Moore, also acquired in the Jake Muzzin trade. He has 18 points in 30 games. Drew Doughty, 17 points in 30 games. Kaliyev, 17 points in 29 games. Like, it's just not the guys that were supposed to be carrying this team. Like, I get they brought in Fiala, Arvidsson, they signed Deneau. Like, I get those guys are supposed to be carrying the team right now as expected, like big ticket contracts, big trades, whatever. But 3 years ago, those 3 guys weren't on the team, and it was supposed to be all these prospects. And so now LA has had to pivot to acquiring these sort of name brand players to carry their team, and they're just still not that good of a team.
Like having
it's very strange.
All these lottery tickets per se, and they didn't like really hit on very many forwards. At least their defense still looks like it's going to be pretty good. Yeah, but the forwards, it just looks like a bunch of middle.
Their defense is awesome.
At the moment.
Their depth chart at D is sick. Yeah, Ryan, didn't you always say LA and Ottawa were like rebuild siblings or something? Was that
But they're a little bit behind. So,
like Ottawa and LA, it's crazy how similar their situations were going into the 2020 draft, and now how different they are. Like LA, you would never think that this was a team coming out of a rebuild because all of their best and most productive players are not like young players. So yeah, just a sort of a weird situation going on there. They also have no goaltending, so that obviously has something to do with it because they thought Kyle Peterson would be taking the lion's share of starts, and all of a sudden they have to lean on Phoenix Copley because Peterson's in the AHL and Jonathan Quick is 36 years old. So yeah, LA, weird team. Do you guys think we have enough time to talk about the World Junior team? Like, Jack, how are you for time? What time do you work at?
Oh, we started early for me. I'm good.
Okay, you're good. We're at about 38 minutes. We can spend 5 to 10 minutes on the World Junior team, I think.
Just one last thing, though, on LA is imagine
Sure.
if Quentin Byfield was what Tage Thompson currently is.
Oh, my God.
Because that's
yeah.
kind of a similar situation, like a big power center with offense.
Maybe like a little less prolific of a goal scorer, but sort of making up for that with his playmaking ability.
We're like and similar, just like the big guys, but with hands.
Yeah,
I think injuries have really been the major detractor, to be honest. But it's still crazy to look at between the difference between 2 and 3, especially. Like 1 is playing in the AHL. Yeah, but like 2 and 3 is even the craziest. Like,
well, same with 1. Lafreniere is right there.
In the AHL for most of his career so far, and 1 is over a point per game at 20 years old. Like, so.
Yeah. It's almost like Lafreniere and Byfield were sort of like cursed from the get-go in that they came into these situations with teams that were trying to win within a year or 2 of drafting them. So all of a sudden, Lafreniere was like the third best left winger on the depth chart, so he played third line minutes, and that's not how you develop a number 1 pick. Same with Byfield. Like they get Byfield, he goes back to the OHL for a year, and then they sign Philip Deneau. So all of a sudden, Byfield's getting third line minutes and just hasn't really found his niche in the NHL yet.
I think we're seeing that a little bit.
Both guys have been kind of screwed by their teams being too good with those high draft picks.
And they're pushing for it. So, and with that, we can talk about how Wright is number 1 seed.
That is an excellent segue. Ryan, do you want to read off the expected forward lines for the World Junior team?
First batch of expected lines for Team Canada at the World Juniors that are going to be in Moncton and Halifax this year. So the blessed player of the year is Zach Ostapchuk, Ottawa Senators prospect, who is on the first line left wing with Wright as his centerman and Bedard on the right wing. So that's a crazy line that I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more on. Second line is Gaucher. Who is that? I don't even know. I honestly don't even know. Like, there's a few names I did.
Relax.
There's a few names I don't know this year, so I'll just.
You probably just skip it. I don't even think it's worth talking about.
So Stankoven and Gunther on the second line. Beck and Othman on the third line. Fantilli and Dumas on the third line, and Doc and Roy on the fourth line. And then I don't know if you want me to get into defense and goalies, but. Yeah.
I would maybe mention Zellweger, Brendan Clark's expected to be let go to be on the team.
Zellweger on the first line, and then Lambert
Brant Clark
on the second pairing, and Korchinski and Mathieu on the third. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see Kevin Korchinski at the World Juniors, to be honest, just as a fallout from the DeBrincat trade.
Good season, so I meant to look into that more, and I just kind of forgot it too. So,
this is kind of a sidebar. This can be a conversation for a later day. The more I sort of look at the DeBrincat trade, the more I think maybe Chicago knew what it was doing. In that maybe sort of DeBrincat was a bit of a byproduct of Patrick Kane. It's only been 30 games. It's too early to say, but the early indications are there.
I think
they said that about Panarin too.
True. Okay. I mean, like I said, it's still too early to say, but I'm saying after 30 games, there are maybe a little bit of indications. Because I also wonder if maybe no other team was willing to pay more than what Ottawa did, because that trade haul that Chicago got was widely considered underwhelming for that guy, for DeBrincat. And so now I'm kind of wondering if maybe
I think
more teams were sort of hesitant because they thought DeBrincat was a byproduct of Kane.
And so the stagnant salary that everyone is already trying to fight was probably driving the price down. But I've seen enough from him to say that, I don't know, he's just been extremely unlucky. Like, he got one last night that went in off a pass, but, like, he had the biggest wide open net ever last night, and he just railed it off the post. Like, it looked, I don't know. He gets 3 or 4 high quality chances.
Yeah, and he's been
single game, and something funky happens that it doesn't go in the net every single time. So I think they're gonna come, and I think they're still there. It's just for some reason it's not happening. Yeah.
He's also not taking shots either, right? Like, he's being way too. What's the word? He defers way too often as a 40-goal scorer. Yeah. So back to the World Junior team. That top 6 is going to dominate. Like, Shane Wright's going to dominate this tournament. Connor Bedard's going to score 1 million goals in 7 games or whatever it's going to be. Logan Stankoven's going to put up 2. Like, Logan Stankoven and Dylan Guenther could low-key, like, sort of carry this team. Like, I think those 2 guys are going to sort of be in the shadow of Wright and Bedard because, like, just obviously. But I think Stankoven and Guenther have a serious opportunity to outperform Bedard and Wright.
It's so nice to see you have come around on Stankoven.
I just didn't really know who he was at the time. I don't think we really need to rehash things.
It will always
I'm all aboard the Logan Stankoven trade. The kid's insane. But I will say I did not know who he was way back when.
Yeah. Okay. Like, I know
Dumais.
He's on the house.
Dumais. You said Dumas, and I was like, oh my god, right?
I heard it too. I wasn't going to embarrass him. I've been the guy who doesn't pronounce names good before. I try to save other people from having to feel bad.
But like those two on the fourth line as it is right now, if they're playing against fourth line matchups, they're gonna friggin' rip it up. Like Fantilli, have you seen his numbers this year? If this wasn't the third year, he would be, I don't know.
Oh my god, I'm so excited to see like how
it's crazy. Yeah.
I'm excited to see how Fantilli looks next to Bedard on the same team.
No, neither have I.
I think that's going to be fascinating because I haven't watched Adam Fantilli play.
It'll be interesting to see like how if he almost tries too hard, because for a lot of people this will be the first time they see him, and this is his one chance to be right beside Bedard and steal the spotlight.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting too if he tries to, like Jack, you said, trying too hard, because he's not going to get the same minutes that Bedard gets. Like Bedard's going to start the tournament playing 17, 18 minutes a game on the top line, getting PP1 and like being the focal point of the top power play. Adam Fantilli is going to get fourth line minutes to start the tournament, likely, unless he dominates the pre-tournament games. So it'll be interesting from that standpoint too, seeing like the guys that are probably going to go 1-2 in the draft.
No.
Speaking of 1-2 in the draft, Russia's not going to be in this tournament, are they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think them and Belarus are still banned from all IHF.
Okay, that kind of like I get it, obviously, but it'll suck not to have Matvei Michkov in a World Junior because I don't think Russia was Russia in it over the summer. Do either of you know? Because I didn't watch a second of that tournament. So basically, like Michkov will have gone his career without playing in a World Junior tournament, which is shitty for the kid.
It would be cool to see.
It would have been cool to see. See the top three guys go at it.
To see Ostapchuk in that number one kind of left wing role right now as a Sens fan. It would be really cool if like Fantilli pushes the envelope and makes his way up, and you get a first line of Fantilli, Wright, and Bedard. Yeah, right. Like that's the like first.
That's who I would have given it to start.
Put together, but like obviously I don't watch them closely, so.
It'll be interesting to see too, because this draft's seen as like the four horsemen at the top. Like there's four big guys at the top. It's Bedard, it's Fantilli, it's Michkov, and it's Leo Carlsson from Sweden, the defenseman. So it'll be cool to see how he does too.
Yeah.
No, me neither. I always learn about guys at this tournament, and I'm not going to be able to watch like any of it. So it'll be I'll be a step behind on the 2023 draft.
Well,
that'll be sick. Are you going to be in Halifax for it? Like, are you making a point to be back for it, or
like the elimination games start? So I might, if I can find reasonably priced tickets for like some random game, I might try to go just because it's in my city. So why not? Yeah, it would be really cool.
That'd be so sick. That'd be so sick. Oh my god. All right. Do you guys have anything else before we wrap up the show?
Just on the topic of the tournament, there's always the nobody, like Tyler Steenbergen the 1 year didn't play all tournament and he got the biggest goal. So
it's probably
as far as these lines go, don't count out the guys who are on the fifth line or sixth line right now.
Yeah. It's even worse because he's
gonna be Dumas.
Like I should know. But... yeah, he's having a crazy year.
He dominates too.
All right, so I think that'll do it for this episode. One quick note now before we go. Ryan, where'd you get your T-shirt? It's a Pizza Planet T-shirt with all of the little aliens from Toy Story on it, and I've been wanting to mention it all episode. Sorry, where'd you get it?
It was quite the find.
That's sick! Oh my god, what a coup from Value Village. That's awesome. All right, so that'll do it for episode 40 of Professional Amateurs. Ryan, hit the outro.